For weeks leading up to my 55th birthday, my family kept hinting that something big was in the works. Every time I asked, my wife just smiled and told me to be patient. When the day finally came, I walked into a completely empty house. No decorations, no note, no calls. Hours passed, and then I saw it. Someone had posted a photo online. There they were, my wife, my kids, my in-laws, lounging at some beach resort, drinks in hand. The caption? My son had written, "He won't even notice we're gone, LOL." I just sat there, staring. I didn't reply, didn't call, just watched. 3 days later, my phone blew up with 50 desperate messages. And there I was, at 4 in the morning, scrolling through pictures of my own family enjoying a vacation I was never invited to, on my 55th birthday. 35 years of marriage, 2 kids I thought I raised right, and this was how it all played out. Forgotten. Or, maybe even worse, deliberately left behind. But let me back up a little. This whole mess started about 3 months ago. My wife, Sophia, began acting differently whenever my birthday came up. Not in a bad way, just secretive. She'd lower her voice when she was on the phone, quickly close her laptop whenever I walked into the room. My daughter, Lily, she's 23, would give me these little knowing smiles, dropping hints like, "Dad, you're gonna love what's coming for the big 6-0." Even my son, Jean-Marie, 25, who usually acts like he's too cool to care, was in on it. I'll admit it, I was excited. 60 is a big milestone, right? I wasn't expecting anything over the top. We're not the kind of family that splurges on extravagant things. We live comfortably, but we're not drowning in money. A lot of our savings go toward Lily's college tuition. And just last month, I helped Jean-Marie put a down payment on his first apartment. That was $5,000 I really couldn't afford to lose, but that's what dads do, right? So when all the secrecy started, I figured they were planning some kind of surprise party. Every time I tried to fish for details, Sophia just told me to be patient. Even my father-in-law, Oliver, called out of the blue last week. The man never calls me unless he needs something fixed. But this time, all he wanted to know was what day I was taking off for my birthday. I told him I had put in a request for that Tuesday, my actual birthday, except I didn't end up getting the day off. At 6 a.m. that morning, my boss called me in for an emergency at the Riverside project. There was a water main break, equipment issues, the whole mess. Someone had to be there, and that someone always ended up being me. I called Sophia on my way to work to let her know I'd be late, but that I'd be home by dinner. She sounded off distracted, just muttered, "That works out fine," and hung up fast. The whole day was a disaster, but I got through it. Nobody at work even knew it was my birthday, but I didn't say anything. I'm not the kind of guy to make a fuss about that stuff. Honestly, I was just looking forward to whatever surprise was waiting at home. On my way back, I even picked up a nice bottle of whiskey. Figure I at least deserve that much. At 6 p.m., I pulled into the driveway. No extra cars outside. So much for the surprise party. The house was completely dark. Strange, but not alarming. Maybe they were hiding? I stepped inside. Nothing. No decorations, no ballons, no cake, no wife, no kids, not even a note. Checked my phone. No messages. Called Sophia. Straight to voicemail. Called Jean-Marie. Same thing. Texted Lily. No reply. I was just sitting at my kitchen table, staring at that unopened whiskey bottle, wondering if something had happened. An accident, maybe? I started calling hospitals. Nothing. Tried Sophia's sister, Ava. No answer. At 8 p.m., still alone on my birthday, I finally opened the whiskey and pour myself a glass. That's when I decided to check Instagram. I don't post much, but I follow my kids just to keep up with what they're doing. And there it was, a picture posted 3 hours earlier. My entire family, Sophia, Jean-Marie, Lily, Oliver, his wife Kinsley, and Ava, all smiling, standing on a perfect white sand beach, cocktails in hand, at some fancy resort I had never even heard of. The caption? Family vacation mode activated. He won't even notice we're gone, LOL. He won't even notice. The comments were even worse. Sophia had replied with a laughing emoji. So true, she had written. Ava added something about workaholic husbands not appreciating the finer things in life. Lily, at least, hadn't commented. But there she was in the photos, sunglasses on, looking like she was having the time of her life. I just sat there, scrolling through more pictures. Group dinners, jet ski rentals, selfies by the pool. All time-stamped, all geotagged. They had been at that resort for 2 days. Remember that Alanis Morissette song about irony? Yeah, well, here's some irony for you. I spent years feeling guilty about working too much. Missing school events sometimes. Being too exhausted on weekends. Also, I could provide for these people. Lily's college fund, where I've been putting $500 every single month since the day she was born. The $4,000 I gave Jean-Marie for his apartment. Money I really needed to replace my 10-year-old truck. The mortgage I've never once missed a payment on. The vacations I never got to take because someone else always needed something more important. Something inside me just shifted. Maybe it was shock, maybe it was anger, maybe it was just a cold, hard realization. But I didn't call them, didn't text, didn't comment on any of the photos. I just poured myself another drink and started thinking. First thing I did, I checked our bank accounts. Sure enough, $5,000 had been withdrawn from our joint savings last Friday. The exact amount I had given Jean-Marie. Coincidence? Not a damn chance. I started scrolling back through older posts. Sure enough, Oliver had been dropping hints about some big family trip for weeks. This wasn't last minute. It wasn't spontaneous. It was planned. Planned without me. Planned around me. Planned despite the fact that it was my 55th birthday. By midnight, the hurt had burned away, replaced with something else, cold, calculating clarity. I opened my laptop and started gathering everything. Screenshots, bank statements, a timeline of every lie they had fed me about this so-called birthday surprise. Because here's the thing, people tend to underestimate the quiet, reliable guy who just keeps showing up. We notice things, we remember things, and when we finally reach our breaking point, we know exactly where all the skeletons are buried. That night, instead of celebrating, I sat down with 30 years of marriage laid out in an Excel sheet. Every dollar earned, every sacrifice made. The numbers told a truth they wouldn't want to hear. Then, around 3 a.m., I stumbled onto something else, a credit card statement buried in Sophia's email. We used to share passwords. Apparently, that had changed. It was a card I had never seen before. Over the past 3 years, she had racked up $15,000 in debt. Designer outfits, spa weekends, lavish lunches with Ava that somehow totaled $200 a pop. And the latest charges? Nearly $8,000 spent at their little getaway. I'm not the kind of man who cries easily. But that night, I felt it, that tightness in my chest, that burning behind my eyes. It wasn't sadness. It was fury. How the hell had I become this invisible to the very people I had spent my life providing for? Morning came. My phone remained silent. No bileti birthday wishes. No check-ins. Nothing. Just more vacation posts. A video of Jean-Marie belting out karaoke with Oliver. The caption? Dad would hate this LOL. I showered. Went to work. Came home. Checked their social media again. Day 2 of their trip was in full swing. Sophia's friends were commenting, asking how the resort was. Her response? Heaven. So nice to get away from real life for a while. Real life. That is what I was to her. A thing to escape. I poured myself another glass of whiskey and made some decisions. At exactly 9 a.m., I called my bank and had my upcoming paycheck rerouted to a fresh account under my name only. Then, I rang up my buddy Cody, the one who had gone through a rough divorce last year, and got the contact for his lawyer. Finally, I started boxing up Sophia's stuff and moving into the guest room. I wasn't reacting emotionally. I was thinking logically, like finding termites in your foundation. You do not just slap some paint over the damage and hope for the best. You dig deep, figure out how bad it is, and decide if the whole thing needs to come down. By day 3 of their trip, 3 days after my birthday, I got a text from Lily. A casual, "Hey Dad, how's it going?" Like they had not abandoned me. Like it had not been a milestone birthday. Like I was not sitting alone in an empty house. I ignored it. An hour later, Jean-Marie texted, asking me to check if he had left his laptop charger in his old room. Still no mention of my birthday. No acknowledgement of where they were. I ignored that too. By evening, the tone of their messages had changed. Sophia, are you mad? Lily called twice. Jean-Marie, Mom's freaking out. Can you just text her back? I stayed silent. Instead, I posted my first Instagram picture in months. A simple shot of me, alone at the kitchen table, a grocery store birthday cake in front of me. No caption, no tags, just a timestamp. That was all it took. At 10 p.m., my messenger blew up. Message after message. Sophia, frantic. Jean-Marie, suddenly concerned. Lily, sending teary voice notes. By midnight, I counted 50 messages across texts, WhatsApp, Instagram DMs, and even emails. The last one from Sophia simply read, "We're coming home tomorrow. Please be there. We need to talk." Oh, we'll talk, all right. But first, I had one more errand to run, to pick up new locks for the doors. Because some lessons should not be written in sand. They should be carved in stone. Now about those 50 messages. The first came in at exactly 10 p.m. 3 days into their little beach retreat. "Joel, are you there?" From Sophia. By the time message number 50 arrived at 3:48 a.m., she had escalated too. Please, just answer me. I am freaking out. In 30 years of marriage, I had never once ignored my wife when she needed me. Never shut her out, no matter how bad the fight. Even in the worst moments, I always answered. But there's a first time for everything. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I sat on the back deck, watching message after message roll in, scrolling through their Instagram feed. The contrast was almost poetic. Sophia typing, "Joel, please, I am worried." Meanwhile, her latest post showed her grinning at a beachfront restaurant, taken just 2 hours earlier. Jean-Marie asking, "Are you okay?" while tagging himself at a jet ski rental. Lily sending voice messages, her voice cracking with emotion, from a poolside cabana. At 5 a.m., I made coffee and started documenting everything. Screenshots of posts, text threads, bank statements. I printed it all and filed it neatly into a folder. Maybe that sounds extreme, but honestly, it helped me think. On the kitchen counter sat the new deadbolts and doorknobs, still in their packaging. I had not installed them yet. That felt like a step I might not be able to undo. At 7:30 a.m., Oliver called. I let it go to voicemail. His message started off concerned, but quickly turned condescending. "You are acting like a child." Classic Oliver. The man never thought I was good enough for Sophia. Always had something to say about my modest house, my old truck, my practical spending. It was never about love for him, just status. I went to work like usual. Came home like usual. The messages kept pouring in. Jean-Marie, Dad, seriously. This is not funny. Mom is losing it. Lily, Daddy, please. Just tell us you are okay. Sophia, Joel. I call the neighbors. They say your truck is still there. Oh, now they were worried? Good, because I was just getting started. Why aren't you answering? Ava, hey Joel. Everyone's worried about you. Whatever you're upset about, this isn't the way to handle it. Grow up. That last one almost made me break my silence. Almost. Then I remembered her snide little comment about workaholic husbands, and I stayed quiet. Instead, I spent my evening reinforcing my financial firewall. First, I called the credit card companies. Then I logged into our mortgage account, made sure the next payment, due in 3 days, was coming from my brand new separate account. Next, I updated my direct deposit at work. And then, for the first time in years, I did something cold, something analytical. I built a spreadsheet, an unforgiving, number-driven autopsy of our household finances. Who paid for what? Who actually contributed? I went back 10 years. The numbers were brutal. 82% of our joint expenses, my income. 94% of our retirement savings, my contributions. 100% of the kids' college funds, me. And Sophia, her deposits barely made a dent. Most of what she put in drained right back out for household necessities that somehow always included overpriced candles and throw pillows that no one was allowed to actually throw. Bitter? Maybe. But 30 years of feeling vaguely guilty for working too much? It's different when you realize your work was the only thing keeping the whole damn circus running. Then, at midnight, I found something else. A text thread between Sophia and Ava from 2 weeks earlier. Sophia, should we even tell Joel about the trip? Ava, why bother? He'll just complain about the cost. Sophia, true, LOL. It's not like he ever pays attention to anything but work anyway. Ava, he probably won't notice until the weekend. Sophia, if that's soon. Something inside me hardened. I've been holding on to this tiny hope that maybe there was some massive misunderstanding. Some missing puzzle piece that would explain everything. That text thread shattered it. Day 4. The messages changed tone. Anger. Jean-Marie, Dad, WTF. Mom's been crying all night. What's your problem? Sophia, I don't know what game you're playing, but this is cruel, Joel. Oliver, Joel, you're proving exactly what I've always thought about you. Selfish and immature. Day 5. The anger shifted to panic. They were realizing I still wasn't responding. Sophia, we're cutting the vacation short. Coming home tomorrow. Please be there. Lily, Dad, I'm scared something happened to you. Jean-Marie, if you're doing this on purpose, it's seriously messed up. I still didn't respond, but I did start making preparations. I moved Sophia's clothes and personal belongings to the guest room. Changed the Wi-Fi password. Set a passcode lock on my computer. Small things, but deliberate things. A message. You don't get to pretend nothing happened. That night, Lily left me a voice message. She was crying, her voice cracking. She apologized for my birthday, said she wanted to call, but Grandma Kinsley told her it would ruin the surprise they were planning. Said she felt weird about the trip, but everyone made her feel like she was overreacting. Said Oliver had paid for most of it as a family bonding experience. I almost called her back. Almost. But then I remembered those beach photos. Her smile. The carefree way she lounged poolside like nothing was wrong. She's 23. An adult. Old enough to make her own choices. The morning they were due home, I installed the new deadbolt. Not to lock them out. Not permanently. Just enough to make a point. They'd have to ring the doorbell. They'd have to face me. They'd have to acknowledge what they'd done before waltzing back into my home like nothing happened. I took the day off work, and I waited. 1:36 p.m. A text from Sophia. Our flight just landed. 3:21 p.m. I heard the Uber pulling into the driveway. Multiple voices. Luggage wheels dragging across concrete. Then silence. That was the moment they realized their keys didn't work. The doorbell rang. I took my time answering it. When I finally opened the door, they were all standing there. Sunburned. Exhausted. Trying way too hard to look casual. Sophia clutched a small gift bag. One that definitely hadn't been in their original luggage. Jean-Marie wouldn't meet my eyes. Lily looked like she was about to cry. Oliver and Kinsley stood behind them. Matching expressions of disapproval. I stood in the doorway. Silent. Sophia spoke first. Started with how worried they'd been. How they call hospitals. How they cut the trip short because they were so concerned. Then the pivot. How the vacation had actually been planned as a pre-birthday surprise. But things got complicated, and they were going to make it up to me when they got back. I didn't say a word. I just pulled out my phone, opened Instagram, and held up Jean-Marie's post. He won't even notice we're gone, lol. The silence that followed was perfect. Jean-Marie stared at his shoes. Lily actually started crying. Sophia tried to snatch my phone, but I pulled it back easily. Oliver stepped forward, all self-righteous indignation. This is ridiculous. Let's go inside and talk like adults. I finally spoke. Told him he wasn't welcome in my house. Not today. He could drop the luggage and leave. The look on his face, pure shock. Like he'd just been slapped. For the first time in his life, someone told Oliver no. Told him to leave. The great Oliver, always in control, always the center of attention, just stood there sputtering. Kinsley tried to smooth things over. We're all just tired. Maybe we can talk tomorrow. I nodded. Tomorrow works. For them. But not for Oliver. Not ever. After they left, I stepped aside and let Sophia, Jean-Marie, and Lily inside. The house felt different with them in it. Smaller. Tense. Sophia noticed her missing clothes immediately. Her voice rose. What did you do? That's when I pulled out the folder. The screenshots. The text logs. The bank statements. And then, for the first time, they fell silent. The expense breakdown. I laid it all out on the kitchen table. Every dollar. Every percentage. The unfiltered, numerical truth of our life together. Then I asked just one question. When exactly did I become so worthless to this family? Sophia was the first to speak. She tried to flip it on me. Said I was being dramatic. Said it was just a vacation. But they planned to celebrate my birthday when they got back. I unlocked my phone, pulled up the text thread with Ava, and slid it across the table. Her face drained of color. Jean-Marie jumped in, scrambling to downplay his Instagram caption. It was a joke. People exaggerate online. So I showed him his own post from the past year. All the little jabs. The sarcastic comments about me being absent, boring, predictable dad. His mouth snapped shut. Lily didn't try to justify anything. She just cried. But even through the tears, she let something slip. The trip had been planned for months. And originally, I was supposed to be included. But Oliver convinced Sophia it should be a family reset, without my negative energy bringing them down. By 8 p.m., we'd stopped dancing around it. The ugly truth was out in the open. They had rewritten who I was. Joel, the workaholic. Joel, the absent father. Joel, the walking paycheck. And once they convinced themselves of that story, it became easy to justify treating me like I didn't matter. Like I wouldn't care. Like I wouldn't notice. Like I wouldn't feel. The worst part? They weren't completely wrong. I let work define me. I had missed events for overtime. I had been quiet when I should have spoken up. But I was speaking up now. I told them I'd move my money into a separate account. That I'd pay the mortgage and utilities for 3 months while Sophia figured out her next steps. That I'd continue supporting Lily's education, but directly, not through their discretionary spending. That they had 3 months. 3 months to either rebuild our marriage from the ground up or prepare for divorce. Jean-Marie stormed out, calling me unfair. Lily ran to her room, sobbing. Sophia sat in stunned silence, staring at the stack of receipts and screenshots like someone had just told her Santa wasn't real. Around midnight, my phone pinged. A message from Sophia. I never meant for any of this to happen. The trip was supposed to be your gift. Some time alone to relax. We were going to surprise you when we got back. I don't know how things got so twisted. I read it once, then again, then a third time. Each time, my reaction was the same. Pure disbelief. Even now, even after everything, she was still spinning stories, still rewriting reality. I typed my response carefully. I have the receipts, Sophia. All 50 of them, plus about 100 more you don't even know about yet. The time for lies is over. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep. In my own bed. Alone, but not lonely. There's a difference. 3 weeks later, the first morning after the confrontation, I woke up at 5 a.m. to the sound of someone crying. Muffled. Quiet. It took me a moment to realize it was coming from the guest room. Sophia. The weird part? I felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not guilt. Just nothing. It's been 3 weeks since my family returned from their beach getaway. 3 weeks of awkward breakfasts and tense dinners. 3 weeks of whispered phone calls and slammed doors. 3 weeks of reality crashing down on 30 years of marriage. The morning after they returned, I braced myself for big, dramatic apologies. Tearful confessions. Desperate promises to change. That's not what happened. What happened was, Sophia came downstairs at 8 a.m., made coffee like it was any other day, and asked, "Have you gotten out of your system yet?" Like my reaction was some kind of tantrum that just needed to burn itself out. I didn't say a word. I just slid my phone across the counter. Screenshots open. The texts where she and Ava joked about me, not even noticing they were gone. The Instagram post where she laughed along with Jean-Marie. She stared at the screen like she was seeing it for the first time. Then she tried a new angle. My phone must have been hacked. I never wrote those things. Someone must have used my account. I realized something. My wife of 30 years would rather invent a conspiracy theory than admit she'd been cruel. That's when I handed her the bank statement. Every withdrawal, every charge, every dollar spent on the trip. I showed her the credit card statements from her secret account. The $15,000 in hidden debt. You want to know the craziest part? She wasn't even that concerned about the money. She just kept saying Oliver will help me pay it off. Like I was being petty for focusing on dollars and cents instead of my workaholic tendencies. Isn't that some shit? I worked 55-hour weeks to pay for everything, including her shopping habit. And I was the problem. The kids were a different story. Jean-Marie showed up around noon that first day. Hungover. Defensive. He came in hot, ranting about how I was overreacting. How it was just a stupid Instagram post. How I was being toxic by making such a big deal out of everything. So I pulled out my phone, opened my social media feed, and showed him exactly what he'd said about me. Word for word. The comments. I read through the comments on Jean-Marie posts. LOL, your dad sounds just like mine. Classic boomer energy. Bro, just tell him you're busy when he tries to hang. That's what his friends were saying. And Jean-Marie? He just ate it up. I asked him, what kind of man mocks his own father online to look cool to his friends? What kind of son takes $6,000 for an apartment down payment, then turns around and blows the same amount on a beach resort trip 2 weeks later? He couldn't answer. He mumbled something about how I didn't understand how social media works, and then he left. 5 days have passed since then. He hasn't returned. Lily, though, she was different. She actually apologized. Said Kinsley and Oliver had pressured her to go on the trip. She claimed she wanted to call me on my birthday, but Sophia had told her I was probably too busy. I believe her. Mostly. But I also saw her in those beach photos. She was grinning at sunset cocktail hours, not even old enough to be there legally. She wasn't exactly torn up with guilt. So yes, I'm still paying for her tuition. But now, I'm paying directly to the school. No more joint account, where money vanishes like magic. Day 3 after their return. Things started to get messy. At 6 p.m., Oliver showed up uninvited. I was just reheating leftovers in the microwave when I heard the door open. He didn't knock. Sophia had given him the new door code. He walked right in like he owned the place and started rambling about how unreasonable I was being, how I was destroying the family over a misunderstanding. I didn't shout, didn't toss him out. Instead, I calmly asked him, how much did the resort cost? He puffed up, ready to argue, but I asked again, how much did you spend taking my family on vacation without me? That's when he hit me with a number. $9,500. For 5 people. For 5 days. I couldn't believe it. That's over $400 per person per day. I've never spent that much on any vacation. We've always kept it simple. Camping, road trips, the occasional weekend at a basic hotel where the kids could splash around in the pool. I asked him, do you even know how much I've saved for Lily's college fund? He stayed quiet. So I told him anyway. $29,000. Scraped together over the years, $500 a time. Money that could have gone toward vacations, a new car, home repairs. But I chose to invest in her future. Then I asked, "How much have you contributed to your granddaughter's education?" He turned red, sputtering about how that wasn't the point. How he had created opportunities for Sophia and the kids in other ways. Opportunities like teaching them it's okay to exclude the one who pays for everything. Opportunities like showing them that loyalty and respect don't matter. Beaches and cocktails do. I told him he had 1 minute to leave before I'd call the cops on him for trespassing. He left at 6:30 p.m. Haven't heard a word from him since. The family divide. Sophia went ballistic after that. She called me cruel for speaking to her father that way. She accused me of being jealous of him. She said the real reason I was upset was because I could never give my family the kind of experiences Oliver could. And you know what? There's some truth to that. I've never had Oliver money. Never will. But I've had Oliver time. 30 years of it. Years I spent building something for us, while he was off living off inherited wealth and enjoying early retirement. By the end of the first week, the lines had been drawn. Sophia moved in with Ava temporarily. Jean-Marie stopped answering my calls altogether. Lily started coming over more often, usually when Sophia wasn't around. The family splintered. Sophia's siblings and parents rallied behind her, posting vague supportive messages on social media about standing by family during tough times. My sister, who lives 3 states away, sent me a care package with whiskey and a note. I always thought Sophia was a bit of princess. Glad you're seeing it now. The financial reckoning. 10 days after their trip, Sophia's credit card was declined at a boutique. I'd removed her from all my accounts. She called upset. "Are you seriously still punishing me by withholding money?" I calmly explained that I wasn't withholding anything. I was simply separating our finances. Her income was still hers. Mine was now mine. The joint account had exactly 3 months of mortgage and utility payments left in it. After that, we'd either find new arrangements or live separate lives. That's when she started crying. But not about our marriage or the family falling apart. She cried about money. A text at 10:28 p.m. Oliver sent me a message. Just 4 words. "Let's discuss a settlement." I didn't answer. There was nothing to settle yet. No divorce papers filed. No lawyers retained. Though I had consulted with 3. Just a family unraveling. Facing the reality they'd been pretending wasn't there for years. 2 weeks later, unexpectedly, Jean-Marie showed up at my door at 8:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. Unshowered. Eyes red. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He wasn't there to apologize. He'd finally done the math. His new apartment, the one I helped with the down payment, turns out the monthly costs were way more than he expected. Rent, utilities, internet, and now, with no safety net, he was realizing just how much he'd been relying on me. The real costs. Groceries. All those little things that just magically appeared around the house, but that actually cost real money in the world outside. Jean-Marie had burned through his savings already. And the vacation had turned out to be a lot more expensive than he'd planned, too. He'd charged excursions and drinks to his own credit card, thinking he could sort it out later. Well, later had come, and now he was sinking fast. A part of me, a small, bitter part, almost wanted to say, "This is your lesson. Let him figure it out." But the dad in me couldn't do it. So I made him breakfast instead, walked him through how to set up a basic budget spreadsheet, showed him exactly how much the little things cost in the real world, the world I'd quietly managed while he made fun of me on social media. By lunchtime, he was stunned, not just from the financial reality check, but from realizing, maybe for the first time, what I've been doing all along. He didn't say sorry, not in so many words, but he did something that hit me harder than an apology could. He deleted every single social media app right there at the kitchen table, told me he needed to clear his head, without the constant noise. And then he asked if he could come by on Sundays for me to help him navigate this adulting thing. It wasn't much, but it was progress. Sophia's deflection. Sophia, on the other hand, took a different route. After the shock wore off, she went straight into damage control. She started calling mutual friends to explain everything, then posted a vague, cryptic status on Facebook about healing from unexpected life changes. It made it sound like I'd completely lost it. Ava, of course, has been her mouthpiece, broadcasting to anyone who will listen that I'm having some kind of midlife crisis, that I'm being financially abusive for cutting Sophia off, that the trip was actually supposed to be a gift for me, not a way to leave me out. I haven't bothered countering any of it. The people who truly know me see right through it. The rest? They're not worth my time. Lily's stuck in the middle. She feels guilty for going on the trip, guilty for wanting to maintain a relationship with me, guilty for being angry at her mom. Just guilt. Everywhere. I've tried to make sure she knows that she doesn't have to choose sides. that I'll always be her dad, that her future is still secure, that I'm still paying for her college. The moment that changed it all, 3 weeks later, Sophia finally came by for a real conversation. She sat across from me at the kitchen counter, where we've shared breakfast for 20 years. She asked if I was really going to go through with this. Was I really ready to throw away our marriage over one mistake? I pulled out my phone. I showed her the 50 messages she'd sent me over the course of weeks leading up to my birthday. I asked her, very calmly, to point out which one acknowledged that it was my birthday, which one apologized for leaving me out of the vacation, which one showed any real concern for me beyond fear of being caught. She couldn't find a single one. And then I asked her the question that had been burning inside me for weeks. When did I become someone you could just write off? When did I become so invisible to you that you thought I wouldn't notice or care? What she said next changed everything. She told me it wasn't sudden, that for years, maybe even a decade, she'd felt like we were living parallel lives, that she tried to connect with me, but I was always busy, always tired, always focused on providing instead of being present, that eventually she just stopped trying. She adapted, built a life that didn't require my active participation. And I'm not going to lie, it hit me hard, because there's truth to it. I have chosen work over family too many times. I missed out on events because I was busy making sure the bills were paid. I've been too tired for date nights after grinding through 60-hour weeks. But I also coached genre Little League games. I helped Lily with school projects, mowed the lawn, fixed leaky faucets. I kept the cars running and the roof over our heads. I showed up in all the ways I knew how, just not in the ways Sophia needed me to. The hardest talk of all, that day we talked for hours. Real talk, hard talk, about expectations, about unspoken resentments, about the slow, quiet drift that happens when two people stop seeing each other clearly. At the end of it all, she asked me if there was any chance for us, if I could forgive her for the trip, for the secret credit card, for all the little betrayals that had led up to the big one. I told her the truth. I didn't know that maybe forgiveness was possible, but forgetting? That's a different story. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal without leaving scars. The next day, she moved the last of her things into Ava's house. Said she needed time to figure out who she was without me, whatever that means. 1 month later, it's been a month since my 55th birthday. 1 month since I came home to an empty house and realized just how invisible I'd become to the people I thought were my world. Some days I'm angry. Some days I'm just numb. But most days, I'm fine.